Hello and welcome. And as we get further and further into the new year, I don't know about you, but I've certainly been praying for a word for the year. And I've been praying about a word for our church. Last year, we prayed really hard around the theme of finding favour with God and finding favour with man. And this year, I'd like to share these 3 verses with you. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind and strength. Love your neighbour as yourself. That's Mark chapter 12, verse 30 to 31. And then this verse from John 13, verse 34 and 35 actually. Love one another, just as I have loved you. Then everyone will know you are my disciples. I really feel that these verses are our verses for the year for our church. If we can get this right, I feel that all will be right. So there's 3 themes there, isn't it? Loving God with all your heart, mind and soul. Loving your neighbour as yourself. And I've mentioned before, you can't love your neighbour as yourself if you're not loving yourself. And then loving one another, so loving the disciples within the church, just as Jesus has loved us, so that others will see and recognise that we belong to him. And we can build on these verses. We can build on these verses like the one we looked at last week from Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 to 25. And in the contemporary English version, it reads like this. We should keep on encouraging one another to be thoughtful and do helpful things. Some people have gotten out of the habit of meeting for worship, but we must not do that. We should keep on encouraging each other, especially since you know that the day of the Lord's coming is getting closer. But I actually find it really helpful to read Hebrews chapter 10 from verse 19. And I'd like to share it you from the Message version. And this says, so friends, we can now, without hesitation, walk right up to God in the holy place. Jesus has cleared the way by the blood of his sacrifice, acting as our priest before God. The curtain into God's presence is his body. So let's do it, full of belief, confident that we're presentable inside and out. Let's keep a firm grip on the promises that keep us going. He always keeps his word. Let's see how inventive we can be in encouraging love and helping out, not avoiding worship as some do, but spurring each other on, especially as we see the big day approaching. I absolutely love the Message version. And I said last week, and I think it is worth repeating, it's always worth reading the same few verses in different versions of translations, just to get a fuller picture of what God is trying to say through his word. And I find these 6 verses really helpful. I think they show us and they remind us how we can love God with all our hearts, mind and strength, coming into his presence through the curtain that is Christ himself. And it's just wonderful, isn't it, to know that we can come into God's presence. We can love God with all our heart, mind and soul because we know that Jesus has washed us clean, because we know Jesus has made us pure and holy and given us hope. And I always find that when we've been in the presence of the Most High, it enables me, and I think it enables all of us, to be able to encourage one another, to be thoughtful and do helpful things, to spur one another on. unless I have been in the presence of God, unless I have deliberately paused to be in God's presence, I find it very hard to genuinely love others. But having been in his presence, having experienced his unconditional love for myself, I find that then much easier to share and to spur others on to do the same. So I hope that's helpful this week. I hope you're excited like me to be able to build on these 3 verses that we started off with. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind and soul. Love your neighbour as yourself. And love one another just as Jesus has loved us. Then everyone will know that we are his disciples. I pray that you would really look forward to continuing this journey right where you are, however that looks for you. And I pray that God will bless you mightily. Amen.